Do you feel vindicated?
Partially. I mean, again, I think the words that Senator Cruz said, the first step, this is just the very beginning. There is so much more. I mean, every page, there's tons of additional information which we can then provide. And I think the coming lawsuit will definitely help get to the bottom of all
So you
this.
were an asset for a three-letter agency.
Media reports, which were also misleading the court. I know.
Carter Page, I love them.
Yeah, let's do a paint by the numbers just for 1 second, Sean. 51 violations of the Woods procedures, 9 false statements, 9 inaccurate statements, 33 statements without verification or evidence to support them, 4 informants targeted at the Trump campaign, and 1 giant conspiracy to unlawfully continue surveilling a Trump campaign when they had no basis for doing it. That's the paint by numbers that Michael Horowitz gave us today.
And you know, Greg, you wrote 2 best-selling books, #1 bestsellers, about this.
Failures. Now, this is lawlessness and corruption, and as Lindsey Graham said, a criminal enterprise, a criminal conspiracy. My columns and my books, I always identified a half a dozen lies and misrepresentations to the FISA court against Carter Page. Turns out it was 3 times as bad, 17 of them. And again, these are not just, innocuous, reckless sloppiness. No, it can only be deliberate. This was intentional to violate Carter Page's civil liberties and constitutional rights. And the real target was always Donald Trump. And they're not buying.
Possible? Yeah.
They're not buying Horowitz's claim that, there was a legal predicate to investigate Donald Trump beginning in July of 2016. Barr and Durham are saying not even close.
How is it possible?
Good question, Sean. Here's something I'll say. If this was any other organization but the FBI, the mob, a corporation, political organization, there would be an Enron-sized criminal case already begun. And I think today,
if it was Hillary Clinton and not Donald Trump, everybody in the mob and the media would be all over this. But they weren't.
It's extraordinary. I mean, this was, I think Senator Graydon said it right. It was a criminal enterprise, and it's shameful.
Right.
And I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. And there's nobody.
Well, you had a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
So you think that everything that happened was kosher?
You know, there's not one single bit of evidence. There's one little tiny bit.
Liar.
You know that, but you keep asking me these questions.
No, we don't know that, actually.
Statements coming out from John Brennan, who, by the way, is implicated as well, even in the IG report, because of the intelligence assessment, where he had told Congress that no, we didn't attach the Steele dossier, which is completely debunked, which was never verified, to the intelligence assessment on Russia. What did we find out in the Horowitz report? It was attached. Here are these people who lied to the courts, who lied to the FISC, who left out exculpatory information from the FISC court that probably would have never allowed them to spy on Carter Page, telling us that we need to listen to them. We need to accept their analysis of everything, and we should not question it. No, we should question everything that they've done, everything that they've touched, not just with regards to President Trump, but I'm wondering how many more times they violated the FISA court. And I think this is something that needs to be investigated.
And Sarah, you, John Solomon, and others, it's crystal clear that a crime was reverse engineered. Think about what happened here. The FBI is alleging here, and Horowitz somehow took the bait on this, that this whole thing started because of a tip from an Australian about Papadopoulos, where they were playing the telephone game. The story seems to change if the Russians made Papadopoulos a suggestion or an offer. Nobody seems to know if Mifsud was even a Russian agent, and this started the most prominent counterintelligence investigation in U.S. history.
This is about the fact that 2016 election was illegitimate because the Russians meddled, and the 2020 election is going to be illegitimate because Trump is already meddling in it. So what these people are doing is
Stop it. Stop it.
the perception of honor and integrity of our elections.
So much more to come here.
In Russia than the border between the United States and Mexico. Think about that. This president's been trying to get border security. Mexico is pouring its drugs over the border into our kids' veins and into our communities. And yet the Democrats Mexico and how we can improve relations and keep out the drugs. But they're focused, they want America to worry about the border between Ukraine and Russia. This is nonsense, and that's another reason that the public is tuned out, can't even understand what's going on.
I think we've noticed so much corruption, and we just all want to get to the bottom of this. We want the voters to be heard. Think about different examples, Kellyanne, for the FISA abuse.
If your 401k doing better, is that the people in your circle of life have better paying jobs and more job security with better benefits. You see the veterans respected, the military rebuilt. You see healthcare, the 28 million Americans who have none after Obama, Biden care 10 years after that. You see us trying to work on that. And we talk a lot about the Trump-Pence districts, the 31 members, including the 21 freshmen. I like to talk about the incumbent in the Jerry Nadler district. He seems like a very worried person. It turns out he has two primary opponents. How in the world is Jerry Nadler not left enough for the leftists that have taken over the Democratic Party? Here's a nice chart you can look up for yourselves, but it shows, it plots, I love the plot, it shows how left people are, representatives are. Jerry Nadler's all the way over here, folks.
Gotcha.
All the way over here, 100% with Planned Parenthood Action Fund, not
So
enough.
you're
So
saying
he's worried.
they're doing this to save their own political jobs?
Well, the person running against it is screaming impeachment, 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 impeachment. She raised over $500,000 as of early October. So he's worried too, and he should just get on TV and say that. He should say, gee, I'm worried. One of the president's personal attorneys, and I think that was particularly true during the Mueller investigation, since that was an executive branch Department of Justice investigation. That is long gone. I would say that Mayor Giuliani got the upper hand there, and not Director Mueller. We saw Director Mueller testify. We all read the report. I see the Democrats are now trying to dog-ear pieces of that and put it in their articles of impeachment and the secret sauce. So I don't know what Rudy's doing in Ukraine. I know what I read, but I also know that I have no idea what he's going to produce. So that's a hypothetical. I cannot address at this moment.
Before you
But
go,
he's rooting out corruption, great, because this was always about corruption.
all
Folks,
right,
the Ukrainian president ran on corruption, anti-corruption, and won, and we want him to make good on that promise.
okay, before you go, your reaction, the IG report's gonna come out later today. The president
Sane.
this is the biggest scandal in the history
Kitty,
of our
kitty,
country.
kitty.
You have 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds.
Come on, Zane.
Well, we'll let Mr. Horowitz testify under oath on Wednesday about his report. It'll come out about 1 p.m. What we do know that's been reported so far is that the people like Bruce Orr, who was working at the DOJ,
Sane.
failed to tell his superiors he had met with Steele and that his wife worked for Fusion GPS, and we know that they were not honest about who was paying for the dossier. The fix was in, it was partisan, it was Hillary's campaign, it was the DNC. I've never met Carter Page, I don't think President Trump has. They did a bad thing, and I think that the chips will fall where they may.
All right, the report comes out at 1, we'll see it right here live.
Here, 476 pages, including an executive summary, and while it makes it clear that no political bias behind surveillance of the Trump campaign was found, the FBI was far from perfect, and two key figures, including the Attorney General, disagree with some of the
Such a
report's
lie.
findings. After almost 2 years, 1 million documents, and nearly 200 interviews, Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz found a mixed bag. Quote, we did not find documentary or testimonial evidence that political bias or improper motivation influenced the FBI's decision to seek FISA authority on Carter Page. Carter Page is the former Trump campaign official surveilled by the FBI back in 2016. The report indicates an application known as FISA was approved in October 2016 and given 3 separate extensions. While the applications were approved, Inspector General Michael Horowitz found several glaring problems. At least 17 significant errors or omissions in the FISA applications. An FBI attorney changed the body of an email used to apply for the warrant, and the FBI relied on the Steele dossier for the Page application. According to the report, the FBI did not focus on Steele's funding source, but later discovered
Well,
the source
thank
was
you.
Fusion GPS. These
You're
quotes
so
seriously
nice.
prevented the department from fully performing its gatekeeper function and deprived the decision makers the opportunity to make fully informed decisions. Attorney General William Barr claimed a quote friendly foreign government supplied the initial information to set the probe in motion. Information he questioned. Inspector General's report now makes clear the FBI launched an intrusive investigation of a U.S. presidential campaign on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken. Sources tell Fox News that foreign government is Australia. The report also indicates the former FBI counterintelligence assistant director, Bill Priestap, considered whether to provide a briefing to a member of the Trump campaign to discuss the investigation, but it never happened. Former FBI Director James Comey, mentioned in the report, previously told Bret Baier,
My recollection was there was a significant amount of additional material about Page and why there was probable cause.
Today, Comey tweeted in part, no treason, no spying on the campaign, it was just good people trying to protect America. But current FBI Director Christopher Wray admits his agency has work to do.
Employees either failed to follow our policies, neglected to exercise appropriate diligence, or in some other way fell short of the standard of conduct and performance that we and that I, as director, expect.
U.S. Attorney John Durham, who is conducting his own investigation into the Russia probe, released his rare statement today. It says in part, quote, we advise the Inspector General that we do not agree with some of the report's conclusions as to predication and how the FBI case was opened, end quote. Durham, unlike Horowitz, can file criminal charges. Brett.
Where's Adam? His report, his name, Mr. Golden, you're a great attorney, but you're not Adam Schiff, and you don't wear a pin.
Lawmakers spent the day asking staff lawyers questions about Intelligence Chairman Schiff's 300-page impeachment report. Democratic counsel Barry Burke suggested President Trump committed an impeachment trifecta.
They were abuse of power, betrayal of the national interest, corruption of elections. And what is so extraordinary is the conduct we're going to be talking about today of President Trump didn't violate one of these, but all three.
Texas Republican Louis Gohmert took a swipe at the Democrats' attorneys for being partisan political donors.
The point of order is he's inappropriate to be up here asking questions.
That is not the point of order. He's here in accordance with Rule 66.
How much money do you have to give to get to do?
Gentlemen will not cast aspersions on members of the staff of the committee.
Judiciary Chairman Nadler tried to keep a lid on the bickering.
The gentleman will not yell out, and he will not attempt to disrupt the proceedings.
Fucking loser.
The inclusion in the Democrats' report of names of people whose phone data records were collected was a smear.
That they did not actually contribute to your report, it is nothing but a drive-by.
But with the intelligence chairman not there to answer, some Republicans flashed anger with unelected bureaucrats.
The implication is we want Schiff in that chair, not you. The implication is the person that wrote the report is the person that should come and present it, and you weren't elected by anybody, and you're here giving us testimony. It plays up the chairman.
Chairman Nadler said yesterday articles will presumably be introduced this week, what Republican counsel calls the narrowest basis to ever impeach a president. Right?
Mike Emanuel, live on the Hill. Mike, thank you. With respect to the things that were done to our country, it should never again happen to another president.
The president zeroing in on the findings that there were omissions and irregularities in the application for a so-called FISA warrant to begin surveillance of Trump campaign consultant Carter Page.
It is incredible, far worse than I would have ever thought possible. This was an attempted overthrow, and a lot of people were in on it, and they got caught.
But the president did not bring up the Horowitz finding that there appeared to be no evidence of political bias in launching the Russia investigation. Instead, focusing on the finding that FBI officials made numerous and serious mistakes, omitted exculpatory evidence, even falsified information.
They fabricated evidence and they lied to the courts.
Democrats, on the other hand, leapt on what Horowitz said about a lack of political bias, and that the basis for the investigation was legitimate.
This report conclusively debunks the baseless conspiracy that the investigation
Oh my
into
God,
Mr.
they're in a
Trump's
constant
campaign
state
and
of
his ties to
denial.
Russia originated with political bias.
Fucking no
Republican
self-respect.
Congressman Jim Jordan found the exact opposite in the report, pointing to the fact that the investigation went beyond Carter Page and George Papadopoulos to also include Paul Manafort and
we're moving forward on USMCA, prescription drugs, all the things that we've been criticizing. The problem, Brett, is we should have been doing this 3, 4, 5 months ago.
Congressman, we appreciate it. Thank you. Up next, why former Vice President Joe Biden
remains at the heart of the impeachment proceedings.
Hunter Biden reportedly received between $50,000 and $83,000 a month.
Sondland also mentioned Burisma,
that Hunter Biden sent him.
Hunter Biden had been on the board of Burisma going back to 2014, correct?
But Hunter's dad doesn't care to know any more about what his son did to earn a hefty payday from a Ukrainian energy company.
Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of? No, because I trust my son.
Trust is an issue for two other Democrats. Elizabeth Warren just revealed she made $1.9 million.
True. None of the mainstream media believes any of that was true.
I think it was the tone. I think it was the tone that was off-putting to people.
I was going to say Cosmo here.
And Biden has been insisting for months that no one has said his son did anything wrong, but Republican lawmakers are not convinced. And Biden might soon find himself in the unprecedented position of being called to testify before a Senate jury made up of some primary rivals. Brett?
Well, you gotta look at the particulars, the 17 instances of misconduct cited in the report. They are pretty damning. And, you know, this was not, the FISA court was clearly taken for a ride by the FBI on this. And, you know, this was not a failure at some low level of the FBI where a few things were, you know, not properly done and so forth. This was up and down the chain of command. And it's about as strong medicine as I've seen in a report of this kind in a very long time. The FBI's had some dark days in its past, but nothing like this recently. This is pretty strong stuff. And, you know, whether the conclusions that the Inspector General drew about whether the investigation, the start of the investigation was properly predicated or not, whether he's right about that, saying that it was, and whether there was political bias or not aside, this was very serious misconduct on the part of the FBI.
Yeah, President Trump did not hold back today. Take a listen. They got caught. And this campaign, this intrusive investigation of a U.S. presidential campaign was done on the thinnest suspicions that were insufficient in his view to justify the steps taken. And the U.S. prosecutor, John Durham, says that he doesn't agree with the Inspector General on some of the report's conclusion as to the beginning of how this case opened. With all that said, let's bring in our panel. Byron York, Chief Political Correspondent.
So there you have it. So far, Comey's been let off the hook. Hillary Clinton's been let off the hook. Those are the two main ones that count. I understand if the low-level people don't have to get in too much trouble. They probably didn't fully know what they were doing. But all this talk about what their motives were doesn't matter. It's just what they did. Yeah, it matters. The core of the problem matters. And that is what needs to be addressed. And when you get to the core of the problem, this is the highest levels of these agencies have basically been infiltrated by criminal organizations. You can stick all kinds of labels to them. They're criminal organizations. And the problem here, and actually even that, in politics, it seems like everybody's involved with some kind of organization or society or whatever. Okay, fine. Can't control all that very easily. But we can at least make sure that the people that are running the show are backing up us and not other countries. When you're scamming your own people and when people are dying and their lives are being destroyed and people are going to prison for no reason while other people who should be going to prison are just walking away scot-free, scamming the taxpayers out of their money, laundering money, trafficking, involved with trafficking of human beings. I mean, you have to draw a red line somewhere. And if you just let people slide too much and you don't have any kind of official charge against them, even if the punishment is mild, there should be something official. None of us can be vindicated. We have families and people's lives that have been on hold for 3 years now because of these people. It didn't just affect Trump and his campaign, it affected the entire country. And something has to be done. to send a message to people that this cannot happen. This is not acceptable, and there'll be consequences. There has to be consequences. So I pray to God that Durham and Barr are going to do what's right, because so far it's not looking good. And why is Soros still operating in this country? He should be banned from this country. He's behind all of this. The core of the problem matters, and those higher level people that seem to always be in the picture, those are the people that need to be shut down forever, because they should not be ever allowed to have a chance to step into the political field again. They should not be allowed to influence anybody, persuade anybody to do things that they want to do. That has to be addressed. Anyways, another day in American politics, right? My life is so consumed by all of this that I've barely seen a friend or family for the last 3 years. I could probably count on one hand how many times, because we're all so divided over this. So I pray to God that they get it right, because this whitewashing, shame on the FBI, they made some mistakes, is a bunch of crap. They tried to frame the president. They've painted targets all over all of our backs. People think that we're these evil racist Nazis, and it's a blatant lie. They're literally organizations that are formed out of the Nazis. So they've got Nazi connections all over the place. We don't. And they're trashing our names. The truth has to come out, and it better be done with fair justice for everyone. Good night.